I got pregnant with David's child. I'm going to be the new wife of the company president. At that moment, something snapped inside me. She had constantly belittled me, the president's wife, boasting about her youth and always trying to prove that she is better than me. She even stole my job as the president's secretary, and now, she's trying to take my husband. Fine. I won't hold back anymore. I'll drag both of you down to the depths of hell. I decided to congratulate my husband and Sarah. I signed the divorce papers that David handed me. Of course, I made sure to get a hefty alimony. The two of them had a grand wedding in Hawaii afterward. The situation changed a week later. I got a call from Sarah. Hey. David hasn't come home. You were his wife, so you must know where he is. Sarah's panicked voice. I smiled wryly at the predictable turn of events. Oh, I didn't tell you, but he... What? I exposed my husband's shocking hidden side. My name is Emily Anderson. I am a 58-year-old working wife. I work as the president's secretary at my husband David's company. At 6 a.m. I wake up earlier than my husband to make breakfast. I head to work alone and clean up and tidy the president's office. This has been my daily routine. I want David to work in a pleasant environment. At 8 a.m. David arrives at the president's office. Oh, thanks, Emily. You cleaned up again today? I walk over to him and fix his tie. It's nothing, dear. You want to work in a neat office, don't you? Haha, yeah, I do. David and I had an arranged marriage. Though we were not blessed with children, we've managed to support each other and live together harmoniously. This year marks our 30th wedding anniversary. David's company, which he took over from his father, is stable, and I have no complaints about this life. By the way, the new project you proposed, Jacob has agreed to fund it. I just confirmed the transfer. That's great. It seems Jake likes you. You negotiating with him really helped. David's older brother is the chairman of the company. His name is Jacob. David affectionately calls him Jake. By the way, remember Jacob also funded another new project you proposed? Shouldn't you be moving forward with that one? I asked lightly, and David frowned. Oh, that's fine. I'll handle it. All right. Today's schedule is completely free, right? Yes, as you requested it. David smiled with satisfaction. Good. I have someone I want to introduce to you. I'll bring them here, so wait here please. Got it. Someone he wants to introduce? I felt a strange unease at the sound of those words. A moment later, I heard laughter coming from the hallway. David's voice, and a young woman's voice. As I tilted my head in confusion at how friendly they sounded, the door to the president's office opened. Sorry to keep you waiting, Emily. David said with a happy face. But I couldn't respond to him. I was fixated on the woman standing next to him. She was very young. Her hair was almost blonde, and she wore a miniskirt that revealed her thighs and a camisole with a plunging neckline. It was as if she were dressed for a night out. But she pulled off the look effortlessly, and I was shocked, thinking, so this is what youth looks like. This is Sarah. She'll be working here starting today. Nice to meet you. I was stunned. Is this a joke? Being introduced to a young woman by my husband. Even that alone is enough to give me a heart attack. Moreover, we don't hire fresh graduates. Excuse me, but how old is Sarah? She's 23. The other day, she approached me at a bar where I was with friends. We hit it off, and her youth and energy really invigorated me. Don't you think having someone like her will boost our staff's motivation? Right? Ah, yes. He must be serious. In the face of my husband's beaming expression, I was at a loss for words. Well then, Emily. Teach Sarah the ropes. Wait, Sarah is going to work as a regular employee, right? So, she should. Oh, I forgot to mention. From now on, we'll have 2 secretaries. So please teach Sarah the secretary duties. 2 secretaries? Is that really necessary? Come on. You're getting older. It wouldn't hurt to let a younger person take over some work. Haha. David laughed heartily, and a pang of pain hit my chest. Older, the way you say that. Anyway, I have to step out for a bit. Teach her nicely. With that, David left the office, leaving me and Sarah alone. I took a deep breath to calm myself. David has a tendency to rush into decisions. And he usually ends up regretting it alone. This has happened many times in our marriage. No matter what I say now, it's useless. For now, I'll just go along with it. It will inevitably fail anyway. Hey, Mrs. Anderson. Sarah tapped my shoulder. Yes? How old are you? Since I had asked her age, I felt it only fair to respond honestly. I'll be 58 this year. But my sincerity didn't seem to reach Sarah. No way. You're the same age as my grandma. Mrs. Anderson, you never know when you might just drop dead. Still working at your age, how sad. I gave a wry smile. I love my work. It's not sad at all. Oh, I see. David must be the one who is sad. Whether at home or work, he's stuck with an old hag all the time. That's really pitiful. Her continuous stream of insults made my face twitch. What exactly are you trying to say? What? You don't get it? I guess old age really does slow you down. Sarah sighed dramatically and then said clearly. I'm saying that being young and beautiful puts me above you, you old hag. Understand? Her beaming smile made me shudder. I couldn't stay silent any longer. You need to learn some manners. Oh, are you angry? Is it menopause? What? There you go. You are getting angry so easily. Isn't it hard to keep working like that? Plus, don't you sweat a lot and get short of breath during menopause? Trying so hard is just pathetic. Isn't it time to retire? While I was in shock, Sarah leaned in and whispered in my ear. Why don't you retire as David's wife too? I shivered. This woman was planning to take David from me. I raised my voice without thinking. Enough. I can't teach someone with such malicious intent. Leave this company immediately. I thought it was inevitable that we would argue, but Sarah just stared at me. Tears were streaming down her eyes. I'm sorry. What? I didn't mean it that way. I just wanted to be friends with you, Mrs. Anderson, but you misunderstood. This is so cruel. Sarah collapsed on the floor, sobbing. She looked like a tragic heroine. I'll leave this company. Thank you for everything, Mrs. Anderson. Sarah ran out of the room. What just happened? I was still in shock from the sudden turn of events when Sarah returned. She brought red-faced David with her. What have you done? David's sudden shout made me tremble. What's going on, dear? Sarah told me. You yelled at her. She was being extremely rude, so I... Don't lie. I heard your argument. What? Sarah had recorded our argument on her phone. The recording started right when I began scolding her, making it seem like I was berating her for no reason, reducing her to tears. So that's why she apologized so willingly back then. And even cried. I bit my lip in frustration. You don't believe me, do you? Believe you. Sarah came to me in tears, and there's a recording. It's obvious whose words are more credible. A secretary who bullies employees is fired as of today. What? I couldn't believe my ears. I've supported David both at home and at work all this time. And now, he's choosing Sarah, who just joined the company, over me. Wait a minute, then who will do the secretary's work? Sarah, of course. That's impossible. And you, what about Macau? I stopped myself from saying more. I tried to rephrase it in a way only David and I would understand. You know, your hobby. I can handle that myself. I'd rather have the pure and cute Sarah than a lying, aging wife like you. Isn't a young and beautiful woman more suitable for me? David looked at Sarah beside him with a pleased expression. Sarah looked up at David with a sweet smile. Then she turned her gaze to me and stuck out her tongue just a little. I protested to David repeatedly, but he wouldn't listen at all. Being a secretary is not easy. Even when I insisted that Sarah couldn't handle it, he dismissed my concerns, saying I was exaggerating or that they wouldn't know until they tried. He probably thought he was a knight protecting his princess. His behavior was unbefitting of someone running a company, and I was at a loss for words. In the end, David threw away my personal belongings from my workspace. He replaced them with new desks and cute stationery for Sarah. I realized it was meaningless to resist any longer. I decided to leave the company to avoid wasting any more effort. However, David didn't come home that night. Nor did he respond to my messages. At first, I thought he was just angry with me, but as a week, a month, and then 3 months passed, I started to worry. One day, David called me to the company and I headed to the president's office. Maybe he's finally realized how hard the secretary's job is? Is he planning to fire Sarah and ask me to return? With a slight glimmer of hope, I knocked on the president's office door. "Come in." When I opened the door, I couldn't believe my eyes. David, smiling happily, was holding hands with Sarah. They both laughed at me, looking amused. "Long time no see, Emily. I have some big news today." "What is it?" "Actually, Sarah placed her hand over David's mouth. "Let me say it. I want to thank Mrs. Anderson too." "All right." David nodded deeply, and Sarah turned to me with a radiant smile. "We're getting married." "Mrs. Anderson, thank you for taking care of my husband all this time." "What?" I was shaken, and David gave an embarrassed smile. "Well, I thought it was pointless to hide it. I'm ready to start a new life. You're getting old. And it would be better for you to live quietly alone." "What? You can't just..." I felt the blood drain from my face. "Hold on, Mrs. Anderson. We're not done yet. Here, a present for you." I even went to the convenience store to make copies. Sarah handed me several sheets of paper. They were black and white printouts of photos. I felt nauseous when I saw them. "These ultrasound pictures? No way." Sarah nodded slowly and gently stroked her belly. She approached me and whispered in my ear. "I am pregnant with David's child. I'm going to be the new wife of the company's president." At that moment, something snapped inside me. She had constantly belittled me, the president's wife, boasting about her youth and always trying to prove that she is better than me. She even stole my job as the president's secretary, and now, she's trying to take my husband. Fine. I won't hold back anymore. I'll drag both of you down to the depths of hell. I decided to congratulate my husband and Sarah. I signed the divorce papers that David handed me. Of course, I made sure to get a hefty alimony. The two of them had a grand wedding in Hawaii afterward. The situation changed a week later. I got a call from Sarah. "Hey. David hasn't come home. You were his wife, so you must know where he is." Sarah's panicked voice. I smiled wryly at the predictable turn of events. "Oh, I didn't tell you, but he..." "What?" I exposed my husband's shocking hidden side. "He has a favorite hobby. He's probably in Macau right now." "Macau? Haven't you heard? Macau has big hotels with casinos. David goes there whenever he has free time." Sarah gasped. "Wait, does that mean..." "Yes. David is probably gambling his life away. I used to carefully schedule his time to keep him from going overboard. It seems he didn't want the new secretary to know about his bad habit of wasting money on gambling." Sarah was too shocked to respond. I chuckled. "You know, I should thank you." "What?" "David only got into gambling in the past few years. A new business associate introduced him to it." "So what?" "Before you came along, I still had a bit of affection for David. I was worried about him falling into ruin. But now, I'm completely over it. You've taken that worthless man off my hands and even paid me alimony. Thanks to you, I can enjoy my second life." I laughed heartily. I heard heavy breathing on the other end of the line. "You old hag. Don't get cocky. Goodbye. You're in for a tough time now, the wife of president." I said this sarcastically, then hung up the phone, ignoring Sarah's shouting on the other end. A few days later. While relaxing in my new apartment, the doorbell rang. A delivery? I don't remember ordering anything. Suspicious, I looked through the peephole. There stood my ex-husband, David, red-faced. I know you're in there. Emily. How dare you tell Sarah about my gambling? Ah, the gambling. Understanding, I opened the door and invited David in. He must have hired a detective to find me. If I ran now, he'd just chase me again. Better to settle this here and now. I had important information to tell him. I prepared a folder with documents before opening the door. Long time no see, dear. I smiled gracefully. What's with the long time no see? You destroyed my family, and you can still smile? David shouted, getting close to my face, trying to intimidate me. But such tactics wouldn't work on a wife who had been with him for so long. Oh my, why is your face so red? What happened? It's none of your business. I chuckled. He was here just to vent his anger. But I could easily guess what had happened between them. You probably had a fight with Sarah, right? Shut up. Sarah must be furious that you're spending most of your income on gambling. She probably told you she'd control your salary and put you on an allowance. David froze, looking stunned. Huh, how do you know that? Did you bug our place? He asked seriously, which made me laugh out loud. Because you said the same thing to me when I found out about your gambling. You told me. What's wrong with spending the money I earned on my hobbies? You probably said the same thing to Sarah, and you two fought. Now you're here to take it out on me, right? David bit his lip and clenched his fists in silence. Don't underestimate a wife of 30 years. I thought to myself as I watched his frustrated expression. You should be grateful I was your secretary. I managed your schedule to give you as little time as possible to gamble. So you wouldn't ruin yourself. Can Sarah do that? A naive 23-year-old? Well, she'll have to manage somehow. Especially with a baby on the way. Baby. As soon as I said the word, David's face lit up. What a simple man. That's right. Sarah and I are having a baby. Unlike you, she's fertile and will give me an heir. You've lost as a woman. David looked down at me with a triumphant expression. Good for you. We're happy. Don't try to ruin my family anymore. I'm here to warn you. David pointed his finger at me. I tilted my head, puzzled. Me, ruin? I have no intention of that. I actually want to help you. Help me. David looked confused. Did you go to the obstetrician with Sarah? What? That's a place for women. Sarah wanted to go alone, so I didn't accompany her. You saw the ultrasound pictures, right? Glossy, thick paper, photo paper? No, the ones I saw were on thin, regular paper. I thought so. I took out several photos from the folder and showed them to David. They were grainy black and white images. Baby ultrasound photos. David's eyes widened. Wait, are you pregnant? Of course not. These are the presents Sarah gave me. She was quite prepared, printing extras from online just for me. Online? David looked puzzled, so I handed him a printout of a blog post. It was an article explaining how to find and print fake ultrasound images online. The article was written 2 years ago. It included a pregnancy announcement and an ultrasound photo. Compare the photos. Do you notice anything? David looked back and forth between the photos and the article, his face turning pale. No way. That's right. I held the copied article and Sarah's ultrasound photo up to the light. The noise patterns and the baby's shadow were identical. Have you heard of image search? It allows you to search the internet for images similar to the one you have. That's how I found this blog. She must have copied the article and neatly cut out the photos. Then, the pregnancy. David's face was now white as a sheet, and he looked like he might collapse. I decided to give him the final blow. It was a lie. There is no baby in her belly. David fell to his knees. No. She wouldn't lie about something like that. It's impossible. I bought her everything. Expensive brand clothes, bags. Even a costly engagement ring. He pounded the floor with his fists, venting his tumultuous emotions. His pitiful gestures made me smile slightly. Too bad you won't be a father. Besides, considering your age, it's doubtful you could even make her pregnant. Thinking that just being with a younger woman would result in a child was naive. Ugh. You should ask Sarah directly about the truth. I'll call her here now. He probably didn't even have the energy to argue anymore. David hung his head in silence. I called Sarah to the apartment. A while later, the doorbell rang and I opened the door. Seeing me with David, Sarah let out a scream. What are you doing here? Are you trying to take David back from me? No. I told you, I'm grateful to you. I have a baby in my belly. You can't tear us apart. Ignoring my words, Sarah shouted triumphantly. She stepped into the apartment and gently embraced David. Are you okay, dear? Let's go home and talk about the money again. I'll manage your salary. That's fine, right? We'll get through this together. After all, there's a baby in my belly. Shut up. David slowly stood up. He looked directly at Sarah and spoke quietly. You're not pregnant, are you? Sarah's face twisted in a very readable way. What? What are you talking about? Be honest with me, Sarah. I'm really pregnant. I showed you the ultrasound pictures. Our baby is the symbol of our love. Denying is cruel. Ugh. Sarah collapsed to the floor, crying. But she quickly looked up and glared at me. You must have put weird ideas in his head. You're just jealous of my youth and beauty because you're an old hag. Sarah sneered arrogantly. I just smiled back at her. Is that all you have to say? Huh? Hey, David, let's go home. Now. Sarah tugged at David's arm. He shook her hand off. Enough, Sarah. Huh? David thrust the blog article copy and the ultrasound photos at Sarah. You can't deny it anymore. I trusted you. Why did you lie to me? When you said you were pregnant, I was so happy I actually cried. Sarah's expression suddenly went blank. David, she said softly. What? Sarah's eyes welled up with tears as she looked up at David. I just wanted to test your love. I was afraid you were just playing with me. So I said I was pregnant. And you said you wanted me to have the baby. I was so happy. Seeing Sarah's radiant smile, David couldn't help but look somewhat pleased. So, you lied because you love me? Yes. And we can still have a baby. Imagine a child with my beauty and your brains. They'll inherit the company and make lots of money. That's not going to happen. I interrupted their little fantasy world, bringing them back to reality. Hey. We were in the middle of something. Do you really think this man has money? I asked calmly. Of course, he's the company's president. True, the company has been in the family for generations and is doing well. But that's the company. This man is a gambler. You can figure out the rest. What? Sarah's face turned pale as she clung to David. Hey, David, you're rich, right? You told me you had plenty of money and that we'd live a wealthy life after marriage. David, under pressure, stammered. Yes. I lost some money at the casino, but we'll start a new business soon and make a fortune. What are you talking about? I pointed out David's lie. I know there are no plans for a new business. What do you mean? Remember the funds we got from Jacob recently? Where did that money go? You didn't use it to buy brand clothes and engagement ring for your new wife, did you? I glared at David. No way. I would never do that. David laughed mockingly. But his voice trembled. I sighed. You embezzled company funds. I looked directly at him and he gulped. I've been suspicious. You've been saying new business repeatedly this year and getting funds from Jacob. But there's no progress on any project. Instead, it's one new business after another. It was too strange. So, I talked to Jacob and gathered solid evidence. You teamed up with them? So, that deposit from Jake was a trap. You transferred the funds directly to your account this time, didn't you? You usually launder it through various accounts. But this time you were desperate to prove your wealth to Sarah. As if acknowledging what I had said, David mumbled something under his breath. I delivered my final words. You are finished. You'll be arrested and live in disgrace for the rest of your life. Shut up. It's a family matter. I'll get a suspended sentence, and my brother will pay the bail. I'll be out soon. David was trying to convince himself. Why do you know all this? I fired you. You're not involved anymore. Jacob told me. Jake? Yes. He hired me. What? David's jaw dropped. I explained calmly. When he heard you had thrown me out, he contacted me immediately. He apologized for your actions and offered me a job. I accepted right away. You didn't know? Jake hid this from me. That bastard. I'm grateful to Jacob. He entrusted me with managing his schedule. The pay is better than before. I smiled broadly, and David ground his teeth. That damn Jake. I'm going to confront him right now. Just as David was about to leave. Hey. Sarah grabbed his arm. She pulled him close, their faces nearly touching. Her expression was like that of a demon. Hey, old man. Huh? What? David was startled by Sarah's unusually low voice. She took a deep breath and shouted. You tricked me. You pretended to be rich, but you're just an old criminal. Are you kidding me? I'm sorry, Sarah. David, terrified, gently took Sarah's hand. He looked into her eyes and spoke slowly. But it's okay. I'll get a suspended sentence and be back home. Even if I'm kicked out of the company, we'll be happy together without money. Don't be ridiculous. Sarah shook off his hand and glared at him as if he were filth. Do you think someone as young and beautiful as me would stay with a broke old man like you? I lied about being pregnant to get married. I've wasted my time, and now my record is stained. This is the worst. Sarah pushed David away and stormed out of the room. Saw Sarah, please wait. Sarah. Shut up. Bang. Sarah slammed the door behind her. David, abandoned by his beloved new wife, stood at the entrance like a ghost. I called out to him. Leave. This is my home now. Hey, Emily. What? Can't we start over? I can be the president, and you can be my secretary, like before. David forced a servile smile, but I shook my head firmly. Impossible. I hate you. I never want to see your face again. David's eyes widened, and he began to tremble. That's enough. I opened the door and pushed him outside. As I locked the door and started watching TV in the living room, David seemed to realize it was all over. He quietly left the apartment. Later, David was arrested. He had expected his brother to pay his bail, but that didn't happen. Instead, he was taken to a cold detention center alone. David was arrested for embezzling the funds provided by his brother. But it turned out he had also been asking business partners and related companies for loans, claiming he was starting new ventures, only to divert the money to his personal account. David received a prison sentence without parole and wouldn't be out for several years. As for Sarah, she was suspected of colluding with David and was investigated. Though no evidence of collaboration was found, the police discovered she had swindled money from several company executives. She would approach wealthy-looking men at bars, get close to them, become their lover, and then claim she was pregnant or needed money for a parent's surgery to extort large sums. David had also fallen victim to Sarah's scam. Sarah was arrested for fraud. Thus, both of them ended up in jail. It's been 6 months since David's arrest. I am still working with Jacob. Restoring the company's image after the scandal has not been easy, and Jacob is having a hard time. I strongly feel the need to support him. I owe him a great deal. One evening, I returned to the company with Jacob. He sank deeply into his chair and let out a sigh. Today was quite tiring. There have been many business dinners lately. Jacob looked into my eyes and smiled. Yes. But thanks to you choosing a great restaurant, I enjoyed the meals. Most of our business partners are my age. So they appreciated the healthy yet luxurious place. No one had heard of today's restaurant, which made it feel like a surprise. It helped the conversation flow smoothly. Thank you. He smiled warmly. Unlike David, Jacob is always calm and composed. He always speaks politely, and his sincere nature is evident in his interactions. I find him to be very charming. You're giving me too much credit. I bowed my head, and Jacob sighed contentedly. It's astonishing that such a capable person was once married to my foolish brother. Truly unbelievable. I chuckled softly. Well, that's in the past. I have no connection to him anymore. Indeed. By the way, Emily, how long do you plan to keep working? Do you ever think about retiring and living quietly at home? I smiled. I love working. As long as I'm able, I want to keep working. Jacob nodded happily several times. I want you to help me rebuild this company. It will be a long journey, but I hope you'll stay by my side. I nodded enthusiastically. Of course, Jacob. When I responded enthusiastically, Jacob found it amusing and laughed cheerfully. Seeing his laughter warmed my heart. My second life is going to be wonderful. Looking at Jacob's smile, I felt assured of that.